Hey YouTube, if you're watching, this is Hunterman, obviously. You can skip to the next video if you want to see more of the game, but I just wanted to make it so that I had a place to put in some of my thoughts so far as I'm playing through the game, because I love Werewolf of the Apocalypse, and obviously I love video games. And I just thought I'd put my feelings somewhere, but I didn't feel like they needed to take up a whole episode. So if you're only here to watch the game, just lean over to your playlist and hit next. It'll go on to the next game because the recording that would also go up today has gone up at the same time, if I remember to do this correctly. But otherwise, here's what I'm thinking so far. A couple of things. One, I'm not very good at action games, your Bayonettas and your God of Wars and stuff like that, as has been previously demonstrated on this channel. So, when I'm having a good time with the combat in this game, it's because it's popcorny and easy. And I don't know if that actually will be worthwhile to anybody who likes that type of action game, because I'm pretty good at knowing my own limitations and the things I'm not very good at. And so I'm not very good at action games, and I'm doing fine in these action games. Yes, they are the sections of the game I have died in. Though, I mean, I don't actually... Yeah, okay, well, I guess you could say you die... Well, no, you don't die in the stealth sections. So, it's the only places of the game you can die. But still, I don't even feel very confident in my ability while I'm doing them. I'm having a good in the moment, but it's hard for me to keep track of my hit points. And when I have rage and don't, like, I definitely haven't been switching modes at all in my, at least in my first playthrough, which if you're watching the playlist, all of the recordings up to this point have been on the same, like, the same 6-hour time period of me recording. But, so that's one of the things is, like, I don't know how the action will stand up. The stealthing isn't great, because lots of guys are not on patrol, and so they're not moving around, so there's not a pattern to figure out. There's not necessarily, there is sort of an order that you can figure out when to take out guys, but then guys, it's nebulous whether they will completely see you, or kind of see you, or not really see you. It's hard to tell if they're actually really noticing bodies or not. And it doesn't feel as solid in those sections as, well, Metal Gear Solid, or, say, Splinter Cell, the series, or Hitman, or any of these games that have, like, good, decent stealth mechanics. And the only reason I think that I pulled up Hitman when I was saying that wasn't necessarily for the stealth, but because there was one section in this game so far that actually had me kind of pretend story-wise to be a character I wasn't, so I could infiltrate a location. And that's all fine and good, but that's the only time the game has done that, and I don't know if it's just for that section. And it's not like I put on a uniform to, like, hide myself in plain sight and, like, get past them. And furthermore, I've got, like, all these tattoos on and stuff like that. I look like the types of werewolves that this, like, Pentex group, this wormy group, this evil group, if you will, if you don't know all the words, would be dealing with. So it feels kind of suspect that I would show up like a night or so after the raid looking for work and nobody would draw any weird conclusions. It also feels really weird in story-wise that every time there's a combat sequence or a stealth sequence that goes bad and turns into a combat sequence, that combat sequence is its own thing. Like, the alarm doesn't keep going off in the base, nobody in the next room talks about what's going on. So, for example, in Deus Ex Human Revolution, the better of the two recent Deus Ex games, I would argue, one of the things I loved about that game is that as you played through the game, how you played through the game would affect how the NPCs, even in their general dialogue, would respond to you. Do you know how in the Batman Arkham games, perhaps, that guards, once they start realizing their friends are gone, if they start realizing their friends are gone, or if you've attacked them and gotten away multiple times, they're, like, freaking out and their heart rate's going through the roof and they have dialogue about that and stuff like that. Imagine Deus Ex Human Revolution not only does stuff like that, but it does it on a longer scale. So you can actually come across, for example, if you've been playing the whole game, I believe what it's called is a ghost, which is not only are you not seen, but you never take anybody out, and you just go through an area and you complete your objectives and you're gone, right? In Deus Ex, missions will go by, where you'll hear NPC dialogue that wouldn't exist otherwise, where the people are just making comments about, oh man, you know this guy Adam Jensen? Oh no, you never see him, man. He's like a ghost. Nobody knows what he looks like. This and the other. Like, oh man, what are you talking about? No, that's not going to be a problem. This and the other. And you just sneak past him, never get seen. Like, it's awesome, but Werewolf doesn't give you the opportunity to have that. This video game, because everything is like piecemeal from one section to the next. The stealth sections exist to get you rage. The rage just gets you to help you in combat. But since there isn't any checkpoints between doing the stealth section and the combat, and at least on one occasion there wasn't a proper checkpoint between two entire rooms. It's only happened once, but there was a missing checkpoint, if you will, that happened, you know, if you're watching the playlist, it would have been like episode 3 or 4 or something like that. And like that really set you back really far, because like any stealth game, when you go try and do an entire section stealthy and then you mess up and then it resets you to before that entire event happened, it can be a real kick in the teeth. And like it only happened one time, because otherwise the game is easy. So, and I'm playing on normal, to be clear. There are some games on this channel that I play on easy, like for example, if I were to be playing like the Dead Space series or any modern Call of Duty, because I'm sorry, I just don't feel like I should have to put 8 bullets in somebody's head on normal difficulty to kill them. Maybe it's just me. Don't feel like you should have to do that. Another one of the things that's bothering me at this point is that the game is getting the character development setting and lore of actually Werewolf the Apocalypse wrong in a lot of ways. There doesn't seem to have been any... There may or may not have been any Metis characters so far. The Gathering for the Departed is weird. The Karen being like 1,500 feet from the Endron building, I get it, it's a video game, so they're just kind of showing that it's closer than it would, but it's really disconcerting. Like, there shouldn't be a moment where I stand out on the ridge from the giant tree that's behind me for the Karen, and I look forward and I can see the Pentex complex or road or whatever that's right there at the Karen. You know, yes, there are urban Karens, so that's one of the things, in case you're watching along and like you don't know, Werewolf does have like the Glasswalker tribe, and there are werewolves who live in cities, and you can find the spirit of the earth like essence inside of cities, and those are some of the favorite characters I like to play. But that's not what we have going on here. It's very clearly set up to be like a rural Karen out in the middle of nowhere, possibly a small Karen, but they're letting humans walk around, which is no good. Like, I don't know what timeline this is as far as the setting for Werewolf, where the characters stand, and because if we're making like a new video game continuity and we're changing the rules, that's one thing, but like, in my opinion, while you do massage the rules into place to make a video game, as you do with anything, right? You take a book and you do your best to make it a good movie or a good television series or what have you. And some things, the way their story is presented, just aren't meant to be other things. And this seems like a actually very decent setup for a Werewolf video game, but there's just like some decisions, like, why is the place so close? Why did they change? Why are they not treating the characters with the lore? Like, when I found out Cahal, the main character, is basically from Ireland, that he doesn't have a more what you might describe as orthodox Fianna view, and that isn't explained, as far as like his tribal upbringing and whatnot as a werewolf, that feels like a pretty decent disconnect. And that he's okay with his kid getting really close in with who is obviously the Glasswalker character, Ava. Like, Fianna aren't huge on technology. I mean, besides living in the modern time. So it would be really out of place, in my opinion, for him to be really okay with that. Especially if he's not more of the relaxed American version of the tribe, and he's actually from Ireland, which is what the implication is. And I guess before I start playing, the biggest takeaway I realized only a little while ago that it's really missing from gameplay is that every time I go into lupus form in the game, it's to just do the stealth sections and feel in character, that I'm walking around on all fours, that I'm harder to see, that I don't have to worry about being crouched, that I move a little bit faster, or that I go through vents. But largely, the lupus form is relegated to not a lot of action. And I don't just mean combat, because obviously an actual werewolf character should have gameplay forms that allow them to fight in Hamid, Krynos, and Lupus forms, and this game isn't doing any of that. It's all Krynos all the time for combat. Um, even though you have like agility and strength stances, I don't know. But it's really missing out on that front. And I just want to say, before I start playing, that again, it's not a bad game. It doesn't seem like it's a bad game. It does seem like, because the gameplay isn't getting deeper as I go, that it might become tedious. That is very possible. I like the being good at the stealth sections, and the combat is generally fun once I have a good perception of my surroundings. It is missing more of the Arkham style, even more of the Assassin's Creed style, like acknowledgement of like you're going to be shot from off screen and you need to dodge an incoming bullet, and the way that you have to figure out the timing of how each gun goes off, like a little iffy, but I like it. Pretty sure I like it. In any event, those are my thoughts. So again, if you've watched this section, either on the VOD or up on YouTube later, I mean, especially if you watch it on YouTube later, leave a comment below. What do you think about, if you've been watching the game up to this point, what do you think so far? I read all the comments, because we get like basically no comments. And, you know, I guess consider subscribing to the channel if you have made it this far in the playlist and you want to see more content from me. It is my intention to end up playing Werewolf the Apocalypse Heart of Gaia at some point. And there's a chance I'll play Bloodlines 2, though Vampire's not really my thing. In any event, thank you so much for watching. Improvision Entertainment, I've been Huntermon, all that stuff. I'm going to go pretty much right into the game now. Okay.